Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Marlene, and on this channel I like to talk about spirituality and metaphysical content. So for this video, I'm gonna talk about and explain from my understanding from the book of The Law of One by Ra. This book basically explains a little bit of how the universe, the galaxies, and basically the planets were created, and he explains it in a metaphysical sense using different language. So when he speaks about the universe, he uses the word logos to refer to the metaphysical side. So that's one of the first things that from the first session there's a lot of like language barriers, but to simplify it, that's what it means. So I have here my board, so I'm gonna try to explain things here on it so you can understand it. Universe and logos. So when we talk about the universe, Ra refers to it as logos, okay? And the universe is a physical manifestation of the spiritual, okay? Or the, let's call it metaphysics, okay? So in a sense, I'm gonna try to explain like the Big Bang in the esoteric, like intangible way of metaphysical way of what this is, like the Big Bang, right? So on the first session, Ra explains that the logos, first, what it is basically is love. So how we see it manifested with like in physical is light. So they are the same thing, it's just that one we can see it and one is like intangible, it's more spiritual. And with that is trying to explain also that love is like the feminine side and light is the masculine side. Why? Because the feminine, it's about feeling, more about the intangible, the spiritual, versus light, he explains it as is wisdom, is intelligence, is direction, is a pattern. That's why we can see it, but in a sense they're the same thing. He even says that the universe is like made out of love. It's the most intelligent, like, is, yeah, something like it's the most intelligent light in the universe. So it's, there's no one better than other, it's talking about the same thing, but just one refers to it as feminine and one is referred to it as masculine because it gives a pattern to all this energy. So how did everything started? How did that energy started, right? So Ra explains that in the beginning there was only infinity, okay? Our minds don't comprehend this because it's like you don't understand what infinity is, right? It's too broad, but in essence, he explains that the universe, how it was created, is like in three, almost four steps, but it's like three steps. It's like at first there was only infinity, okay? That was the first step for the universe to be created. Then on the second, that infinity became conscious that it was infinity. You know, it's kind of like when you become aware. So I'm going to use this analogy, like we're our own universe, right? So it's like when you become aware, your first breath is like you become aware that you're alive. You become conscious, right? Like you can be in a sleep and not know that you're alive until like you become conscious of that. So that's like the second step. And because it became conscious, it realized that it could like create energy. So with this awareness that, okay, I can create energy, that's how it started creating. And that's, again, it's like in parallel to the Big Bang. Is kind of like that moment, that explosion when everything started expanding because it wanted to explore. Like that whole energy, it just wanted to explore freely, like just expand and be energy. And in the same way that we as humans, when we first become conscious that, oh, okay, I can create, like I'm the creator of my own life, I can make my life however I want it, is the same way. Like it all started with a thought, and then with that thought it came another one and another one, and that whole energy just started to create like a reality, right? And so this right here is, again, it's like 3 steps, because we're still, this is what Ra calls it, like the first distortion. Like, yes, we are still exploring, like God is still trying to explore itself, like know itself, right? Expanding. That's why the universe physically is still expanding. But it's like, how do you get to know yourself, right? Like how do you understand yourself? It's usually through interacting with other people, right? Like you learn from other people, like what you like, what you don't like, how you react to other people. So in the same way, the universe is like interacting with other energies to get to know itself. It's like, let's just say it's like an experiment, but a lot of metaphysical teachers like skip this part where they just say like, yeah, you have free will to create, because the universe, that's how it first started. Like it had free will to just do whatever it wanted to do. And because it had that free will to do whatever it wanted to, that's why it started to choose certain interaction. Like, and that's how laws, and this is what they don't tell you, were created. Like the law of polarity, of like feminine, masculine, things like that, like the hermetic laws, I think they're called. I'm gonna make a video about it. So but yeah, with these laws, what they do is they give a sense of direction to just this energy, right? So give me 1 second. Okay, so again, when that universe expanded, this looks weird, but when the universe is expanding, it interacts with certain elements. Let's say this is physical, right? Hydrogen, right? Which I have no idea. And let's say here's carbon. So right here it makes galaxies that are green, and here it makes galaxies that are purple or pink. And in those galaxies, there is certain minerals that only exist in these galaxies, right? There's certain things that only happen in this galaxy. So let's say if a galaxy, like it wanted to rain diamonds, I think there's one, that's why I'm using it, then that's how, like, that's what it is, because it decided, it's free will to, I'm sorry, I'm going to the spiritual side. that energy decided to interact with this loss and this pattern to expand, right? To explore itself. So these patterns, when they interact with that like law, that's when it starts like creating the galaxies. And most of the galaxies you'll see have like a circle pattern. That's because that energy of creating, like interacting with that law, I hope I'm not explaining this wrong, but basically it's like that energy of that pattern, it's the movement, yeah, like that movement of that pattern, it's circle. That's why in our planet or galaxies most of the things are circle and not square. Even like the Reiki symbol for universal energy is something like a spiral, something like that, which means like creation. So again, going back a little bit to physical, what holds the planets is gravity, right? So in a sense, what gravity will be to the spiritual metaphysical side is the free will. So again, those galaxies decided to go within certain patterns, right? And once they decided to create a galaxy, right? Let's say this is a galaxy. That galaxy has different stars, right? Which are like suns. And we have our own solar system. Like our sun decided to have its own little planets. So if you kind of put one and one together, again, an analogy is us, you know, like we have our parents and they decide to have kids, and each of this like kids or children has its own like personality, you know. So it's like, but the parent had already like predisposed attitudes or ways of being, even like physically, that pass on to their kids. And but it's the parents that gave that like pattern to the kids, you know. So the solar system is the same way. The sun acts as the like that energy that gives the archetypes to each of the planets to be that certain energy. So like in esoteric we know it's like, or in astrology, Venus is the planet of like love, beauty, relationships, like Aphrodite, and Mars is the god of like war, masculine, force, energy, you know, drive. So all those archetypes are working because they're trying to create like this energy specifically. This is a specific pattern for that solar system. So here on Earth, our Earth, by its free will and by its as a co-creator with the sun, decided to host, you know, like humans, plants, animals. And so let me see. So again, going back to like us as an analogy, like we get to, from our parents, we get to, this is you and me, right? We come from our parents, we have some of their DNA and stuff that we carry, but once we become conscious of our own like energy to consciousness to create, and that's when we like start creating our own, you know, like our own reality. So it's kind of like an analogy of like this in a bigger picture. Like even you as a human, you have your own like little universe, you know. You have certain like bacteria, and that bacteria has its own little ecosystem, and and it goes, you know, like tiny, tiny, tiny. So it's all from it's a reflection of the like the bigger picture, right? The whole purpose, I guess, of this is because again, God is like trying to know itself, and on this solar system that we're trying to ascend our consciousness from the 3D, which is where we are right now, to the 4D, and then fifth dimension and sixth. And the 4D is like love, so it's like the pattern, I guess, of love. And that's why we're trying to just basically ascend. So once we reach that cycle, because everything has a cycle of death and rebirth, like we die, we have baby, you know, and they create more, and then they'll die. Same thing with their universe. So when this solar system reaches its, like, graduates from that dimension, it learns all the lessons. It's like it's like a, you know, it's gonna be like when you die, you're gonna give all your information, all your life experiences to God, you know. So the same way the solar system is gonna try to give as much information that it can to God. And once Ra explains it really nice, but it's like once this whole system ascends, it turns into a black hole. And what a black hole basically is the metaphysical way of saying that all of the souls have united and ascended to God, and it's kind of like they're moving on to the next dimension. And in those dimensions, it's like the basic law that infinity is one, right? We can't comprehend it on this consciousness, but in the fifth, sixth dimensions, like they all understand like infinity. So it's kind of like a cycle again. So let's say like there's the black hole, then will turn into another big bang, and then everything will start again, but in a different dimension. So yeah, Ra basically explains this as it's very mystical, how everything ends and how everything begins. They're not really focused on how, like, what's gonna be going around the ascension. They're more focused on the actual ascension, like how many souls are able to reach those higher levels of consciousness. And so in case like this explanation is a little too abstract for you, or you want to know more, there's always a choice for you to like meditate on this, and hopefully through meditation you'll receive the information of what infinity is. A lot of people that have done ayahuasca, like in Peru, especially in Peru, they say it's like the most common experience that they'll have when they're going through it, about how everything began, how everything started. They get to experience they call it like the emptiness, like the void. There we go. They get to experience the void, which is like the infinity, and like they understand everything, and at the same time it's like you can't really explain it because it's more of like a feeling, right? But yeah, they definitely understand that we're all one, we're connected, and even if you feel like you're just an individual and you're trying to ascend, it's better than because as a whole they see us as a collective, and they only experience, or like Ra says something like they only understand us as a collective. But even if a person is just trying to ascend, like that's good, you know, like, because one individual forms part of the whole collective, so it's like, you know what I mean. So it's better than nothing at all, like one person. So yeah, I think that's all I have for today. Hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.